all heard about a midlife crisis, and some of us like to call it a midlife awakening. And it turns out that there is actually an astronomical, astrological, human design reason why that happens. And part of it has to do with the shift of the nodes of the moon in your own chart. And today we're going to dive into some of the specifics as a context about the nodes of the moon, why they're significant, what kind of role they play, and then dive into the shift that the nodes in the moon just made. They just changed gates and they just changed astrological signs. So it's a big shift in energy. And it's kind of like a background energy that is always influencing all of us. And so it's a good idea to get a sense of what this is so that you know how to use it for your own advantage and also not to get caught in any of the pitfalls. So that's what we're going to focus on today, nodal shift and what it means for you and what it means for all of us. Let's go ahead and get started. For those of you who are new here, I'm Maggie Ostara. I'm a human design expert and a sovereignty mentor. And I like to take a look at what's happening for us astrologically from a human design and a sovereignty point of view. And what I was just talking about with the nodes actually is a key aspect of how we begin to move into our sovereignty more and more over the course of our life. It's just a gentle reminder that coming up in August, we have our community conversations. We're going to have our transit conversation, which is where we come together and we talk about what's going on with the major transits. You get an opportunity to ask questions. You can ask about how the transits are influencing you specifically. And we also talk about the transits more generally. And we had our first one in July. We'll have our next one on August 6th. And then we'll also have our conversation about human design charts. And I will put down below the recording of the first one that we did. And then we have the next one coming up on the 20th of August. So I'll be letting you know about that. But then the transit one is coming up next week. So I wanted to make sure that you knew about it. And if you do come and register for that, you'll just keep getting reminders for them going forward until you decide you don't want them anymore. So let's talk about the nodes of the moon for a moment, because they're kind of mystical and mysterious and magical because they actually aren't a planetary body like all of the other things that we look at. They're actually a point in space where the ecliptic, which is the orbit of the Earth around the sun, right? We call that the ecliptic. We have the ecliptic plane. And interestingly enough, most of the planets, move within a pretty small range up and down of our own ecliptic of the Earth. And so there's that plane, right, which is the ecliptic of the Earth. But then there's also the moon, which is rotating around the Earth. And the Earth, of course, is on its axis. So everything's kind of tilted. But at some couple points, right, we're going to get those different orbits are going to cross over, and happens generally 4 times a year. And that's when we get eclipses. So the nodes are really important also for understanding the eclipses a little bit better, why they happen, right? An eclipse is when either the Earth moves in between the sun and the moon, or when the moon moves between the sun and the Earth. And that's why we get the shadow of those planetary bodies, because one of them blocks out the light of the sun, and then we get a different view. So the nodes are connected to our destiny, if you will. The south node is considered what we brought in with us, like our karma, and also what we're learning earlier in life. And generally, by the time we hit midlife, we have ideally kind of learned all that we had to learn regarding our south node. We've made peace with the past. In fact, my motto for feminine sovereignty is make peace with the past so you can come fully into the present, from there to command the future. Because if we're always, referring to the past, which is kind of what our brain does automatically, what the unconscious does is it looks to the past. If we're always looking to the past, right, we're not in the present. And the present moment is our point of power. It's where our ability to really create purposely and consciously comes from. So we want to come fully into the present so then we can command the future. So when it comes to the nodes, we want to make peace with whatever it is that our south node energy has pointed us to. And like I said, it's kind of karmic. So it could be a challenge that you've had in other lifetimes as well, that you brought in with you again this time because you wanted to work on it and perhaps really resolve it during this lifetime. So making peace with that past so that you're then in the place where you can move into the next stage, which is where your north node is, which is all the way across the astrological wheel or all the way across the human design mandala. They're considered opposite each other in astrology. And so you're going all the way to something that you don't know already, right? It's a new adventure. It's new energy to be leaning into, and it might feel really uncomfortable. It's definitely unfamiliar, and it could be uncomfortable. It could be like, but that's not me. I'm this south node energy. I'm not that energy, right? And so sometimes we can resist that movement going from the south to the north node. But nonetheless, your energy is already going to wake you up, because this is why we get restless, or we start to question things, or we start to wonder, isn't there more to my life? Or why am I, I've enjoyed having this role. I've enjoyed, building my life in this way. Why am I now unhappy? Why am I feeling dissatisfied, right? That's because inside of you, the movement from your south node to your north node is happening. And it's often ignited by the Uranus opposition that happens around age 42. And for some people, it comes on later. For other people, it starts earlier. So it's not like a hard rule. But this is one of the reasons that we start getting this kind of shift happening at midlife. And one of the best things we can do is really learn to be curious about and start to investigate, start to explore, start to try on aspects of our north node energy, because that's considered our destiny, right? We're going to command the future from the present moment by leaning into the energy of where our north node is. So this is what you do in your own personal life, having to do with your own personal south node and north node. Now, for some people, they have what we could call an inciting incident, right? Which is a term that we use in literature or in film, right? Where we get this, something happens, right? And it kicks off the story, right? We usually start out, things are all fine, everything's good, and then something happens. And so sometimes people wait for that kind of inciting incident to start making this shift. That could be that a relationship just really isn't working and you're deciding to leave that, or your career just isn't working for you anymore, or where you're living isn't working for you anymore, or maybe all of it, right? And so something happens, right? Somebody says, you know what, I just don't want to be in this relationship anymore. Or, somebody does something and you decide, I just don't want to be in this relationship anymore. Or that can happen with work as well. And so sometimes we wait for an inciting incident, but I want you to know you do not have to wait for that. If you decide that you want to really grab a hold of your destiny and you want to start working with it now and not wait for, the ground to be pulled out from underneath you, because that sometimes happens with what we call a midlife crisis, right? Something really big happens, and then you have to scramble to work with that. But instead, you can actually get to know what that trajectory of your soul journey is like, and what the characteristics of what your soul purpose is, by looking at both your nodal axis, and in human design, we look at your incarnation cross, because your incarnation cross tends to come on more around midlife as well. And then it's the energies that you're going to be working with and really leaning into and embodying during the rest of your life. I just created some new reading options, and one of them is about soul purpose and destiny. And I did this because this is so relevant for so many of us right now, both in terms of whether, if you're in your midlife or you're a young elder, because it really kind of starts at midlife, but it continues for the rest of your life. And you're in that place where you're like, I would really like to have some more information about this so that I can be more purposeful and I can have more command over what's happening and not feel so much like I'm at the mercy either of things coming at me from the outside or even the inner impulses that I don't understand. So if that is something that interests you, I encourage you to go and register for a reading with me. I made these shorter than my longer foundational readings so that they're more financially available to people, because I just felt like this is a really important for us to do. So the link for that will be down below in the description. I'll put it at the end of the video, and I would love to connect with you and support you in that way if this feels like a really good next step for you. So the nodes of the moon have just shifted gates and have shifted signs. So in astrology, the south node has just moved into Leo, and the north node has just moved into Aquarius. And oh my goodness, we've got so much Aquarian energy. I'll unpack that for you. And they've also changed gates in the human design system. So the south node has just moved into the gate 29, which is known as devotion. Or perseverance in traditional human design. I really like devotion because it has this kind of soul quality with it. And then the North Node has just moved into the gate 30, which is known as clinging fire in the I Ching, or desire in quantum human design. And so let's go ahead and dive into this a little bit. So the gate 30 is a very intense gate in the human design system. It's on the emotional solar plexus. And when we see this defined in somebody's chart, then we see that the intensity of that chart amplified by 10, simply because that gate is colored in. So it gives you a sense of what that clinging fire, right, is all about, right? It's hot, it's purposeful, it's there, and it really wants to do its job. And so the job of the 30, of that clinging fire, is to be able to hold on to an idea, a purpose, a mission, an intention, a dream, a fantasy, for long enough until it is the right time for it to come into form. And because it's on the emotional solar plexus, the gate 30 needs time to get clear, right? All gates on the emotional solar plexus need time for clarity, because remember, our emotional energy is very, very powerful. It's the most powerful energy that we actually have. And when it gets really activated, right, it can be hard to be clear about things, because it kind of takes over. Our ability to think through things is a lot of times diminished. And that can be like super high energy, happy, joyful, blissful energy, as well as more, downward spiraling energy. So either one, right, can distort our ability to get into that state of divine neutrality where we can really get clear. So in the disempowered expression of the gate 30, you can feel at the mercy of your desire, right? You could be at the mercy of feeling like you've got all this desire in you, and you don't really know what to do with it, and you feel like you're just kind of being knocked around by it, and you're at the mercy of something that you don't feel like you have control over. The shadow expression is when you feel that, and then you want to push to make things happen, or force things through, or manipulate situations or people in order to get the outcome that you desire, right? You're going to do whatever you need to do in order to get that desired outcome. So that's the shadow, because it's really like power over. And then the more awakened is where you can come into that state of divine neutrality right here in the heart, so that you can be clear about what your desire is. And you can hold on to it. You can use all that intensity and all that power of the gate 30 to hold on to whatever that, that vision is, that purpose is, that dream is, that mission is, until the time is right. So it takes patience, right? It takes that kind of devotion, actually, that you get from the gate 29, which is the opposite, right? That south node. Ideally, we've been already developing our ability to be devoted to something, which takes commitment and it takes patience, because, devotion doesn't happen quickly, right? We devote ourselves to something knowing that it's unfolding in our lives, right? We're not pushing it through. So that gate 29 can help you with that as well, to be able to just hold that energy. This is all down in the bottom part of the chart. So there's a lot of power down here, but there isn't access to the throat that would give you the ability to actually express it and activate it and manifest with it. So you have to wait until the time is right. And what's extra interesting this time is that Pluto has been in the gate 41, and the gate 41 is the mate of the gate 30. So as the North Node moved into that gate 30, it created a complete channel from the root center to the emotional solar plexus. So if you have either or both of these centers open in your chart during this transit, which is going to go all the way till November 23rd, okay, so it's a kind of long transit, you're going to have both of those centers lit up by this channel. Like for me, I have an open emotional solar plexus, so I'm going to have that lit up all the way through the end of November. So you can take a look at your own human design chart and see, if you have those centers open, if you have that channel open, and you can start to lean into how that's going to influence you. Now, if you don't have any idea how to do that, I do have a free training. It's a 20-minute video training and a little template. It'll get you started with understanding the transits, and you can just download it. It'll be down in the description. So you can just go ahead and get that if you want. It's called Understanding the Human Design Transits, and it's just a little gift for you so that you know how to apply these to your own human design. So as I said, Pluto has been in the gate 41. It's been there for over 18 months and is going to be there until 2028. So Pluto stays in a gate for a long time. It's got the longest orbit, right? 248 years. And so we get a lot of that energy during this time because Pluto, is the god of the underworld, right, is here to help excavate what it hasn't been working. Right? What's the corruption? What's the distortion? What are the things that are out of alignment really with divine love and with the creator energy? And how do we move that out so that then we can expand into more of the awakened, the empowered expression of that? So Pluto has been in there, and when Pluto moves into the gate 41, it's considered the beginning of a new era, really, because the gate 41 because the gate 41 is associated with the initiating codon of our DNA. So that's basically like the start signal, right? Then the start signal gets the start signal gets the energy in motion to then create a protein, right? It's like the metabolical process that then creates a protein, and our bodies are created from proteins. So it's the start of that, right? So it's like the beginning of a whole new cycle. It's the beginning of building blocks, if you will. And we consider when the sun moves into the gate 41 is the beginning of the human design new year. It happens towards the end of January every year, around January 21st, 22nd. And so that's when we celebrate the new year, is when the sun enters into this gate. And so when Pluto enters into it, it really is the initiation of a new era. And we already know that we're moving into the age of Aquarius. We know that Pluto is in an age of we already know we're moving into the age of Aquarius. We already know that Pluto is in Aquarius. So we've got a lot of Aquarian energy, like I said. And then on the full moon, which is actually happening today as I am filming this is a full moon in the gate 41. So we're going to have Pluto there, we have the moon there, and we have the Earth there, all in the gate 41. And they're all connecting to that North Node in the gate 30. So this is a really supercharged channel right now, right? There's a lot of energy there. And that ability to reclaim your imagination for however you might have kind of outsourced it to entertainment, or you might have outsourced it to other people, or you might have outsourced it to the media, which I hope not, but we do, right? Anytime we get caught in news stories and we start imagining and we start having things going, we're really outsourcing one of our most important and powerful God-given faculties, which is our ability to imagine. Because what is imagining? It's the ability to create something out of nothing, right? We just imagined it. You know, how people will say things like, oh, that's not true, you just imagined it. I'm like, well, just because I imagined it doesn't mean it's not true, right? Because, of course, everything is created as energy first. Everything is created with thought first, the energy of that. And so we want to have a hold of that and then direct it where we will. And again, it's the start, right? It's the start codon, it's the start signal. So, what is your imagination starting? And then we've got that north node, which is lighting up clinging fire, which means whatever you imagined, whatever vision you created, whatever dream you created, whatever mission you feel like is yours that you've been juicing up with your imagination, will also have the clinging fire supporting it to be held until the time is right. You can be devoted to that dream, to that mission, to that purpose, to that project, right? Whatever it is, until the time is right, because that's what the gate 30 is going to give you. So that whole channel is known as the channel of intention in human design. So think about that, right? We're going to have this channel of intention that has all this intensity with it. And then this full moon that we're just having today is like another ignition point or another seed point, super lighting up that gate 41. So know that you have all the energetic support that you need right now to really rest your creativity away from wherever you might have outsourced it. You can rest your imagination for wherever you decided to give it away. And then you can utilize it more for yourself. Now, I personally like to read like speculative fiction. I really like it because it helps open my mind to new possibilities. So I don't think that consuming or participating in all external narratives and stories and all of that is a negative at all. I think we just need to be mindful about what it's doing for us and be selective in terms of what it is that we want to put into our consciousness. Because I know I do dream about the things that I read about, right? And so I want that to be something that I want going into my psyche, not something that I don't. So read novels, go to movies if they are uplifting for you, if they're inspiring for you, if they're helping to open up new possibilities and new potentials for you, and not just kind of telling you what you should think, what you should focus on, and what you should be giving your energy to. So that channel is quite intense, right? Because the 30 is going to make it intense, but then Pluto is there in the 41, and Pluto makes everything intense. But let's remember that gate 30 is the north node. So collectively, right, we talked earlier about in your personal chart, but let's talk about this collectively, because this is about our collective destiny, moving into this energy of being able to hold on to a vision, a purpose, a mission, a project, right, an idea, even until the time is right. And I feel like I'm still holding on to my vision of a new earth, my vision of a world that works for everyone, my vision of the potential that, our world is thriving, that there are many forests all over the world. There's clean water, the rivers are running free, the oceans are pure. I have a vision of that, and it's important to me. And so I use my imagination to fuel that vision inside of myself. I bring it into my I bring it into my meditation, and then I give it my energy. I get emotionally connected to it and fuel it with that emotional energy, but I hold on to it, and then I wait to see what's going to show up in my outer reality that indicates that this is the right next step. Now, that is true for generators, whatever type of generator you are, because we're always looking for the signs that are coming to us from the outside. But regardless of what your human design type is you can be doing that process where you're giving your energy to the desire that you consciously choose, right? And you're fueling that with your emotional energy, your joy, your positive anticipation. Neptune's in the gate 17. So positive anticipation, you can fuel it up with that, right? Right. And then we let it go, right? And then we let it go so that we're not attached to outcome. We're not trying to force it through. We're not trying to make a certain timeline work. We're just going to let it go, and we're going to let, the great creator decide how it's going to show up in our lives. But we have to be the ones that are really holding on to that vision in order for that to happen. You may find that you have some resistance, because remember, we sometimes have resistance when we're moving into the new. We're moving into something that is unknown to us, right? Which is what the North Node is about for us collectively. And so just know that's okay. You can have resistance and you can still participate. You can still move forward. And I also want to note that in about a year and a half, it's October 2027 to February 2028, it's going to be a very interesting time, because that's the very end of when Pluto is in the gate 41, and the North Node is going to move into the gate 41 during that 4-month period. So we're going to have Pluto and the North Node both in the gate 41 for that 4-month period starting in October of 2027. So I'll report on that more when we get there. We're heading that direction. But just to know, that's going to be a very potent time, right? Because we're going to be leaning into the future, our imagination, helping us to really do that, while Pluto has been excavating and get rid of all the corruption and the distortion and all of that in our imagination. And then that North Node is going to come there, and I think it's going to enable us to really supercharge our imagination and to be bringing into form that which we have in our deepest hearts of hearts. So if you would like to have a soul purpose destiny reading with me, I encourage you to go and register for one. I would love to connect with you. You will also get a bonus when it's done. I'm working on it now, which is a course on the North Node shift and on the incarnation cross. So that'll give you some background that you can continue to work with this after your reading, as you go forward in your life. Because like I said, this is something that starts, but it's going to continue. And I know that I've looked at mine and it has unfolded differently and continued to unfold over the course of my life as I've learned even more about it. We're truly living in very dynamic times, and it's great to be able to get this kind of cosmic or spiritual guidance that are coming to us from what's going on with the planets. And so I encourage you to pay attention, because it really can make your ride through this tumultuous time not just easier, but way more inspired. And there's a lot for us to aspire to, a lot for us to focus on that can really be very energizing and motivating. So I encourage you to continue to check in with that. All right, my friends, many, many blessings. I'll be back with another video very soon. Bye for now.